can we jump back to something that you mentioned of reparenting, where like I've definitely heard the phrase or the term before, but haven't spent a whole ton of time like specifically engaging with it. And I wanted to ask, like, how would you describe what it means to like reparent yourself to someone who's brand new to this idea of doing that?
No, it's basically just like to be more something that's a little bit more tangible, just seeing yourself as a child, you know, and at that particular moment as a child, you have a certain thing that you need, you know, and like now that you've learned to kind of sit and listen to yourself more, it's like tuning into that particular the child self and its needs. You know, how can I provide for myself, you know, with that need now that I'm an actual adult, you know, and can actually do something about whatever it is that I might be needing. You know, the parent is the one that nourishes, that protects, you know, that provides for, you know, because the child can't, you know, in any given state of being, when you find yourself in a state of pain, you know, how are you dealing with that pain? You know, are you sitting with it? You know, are you using alcohol or anything to numb yourself out? Well, you know, how are you taking care of yourself? You know, reparenting from a sense of you being more mindful of your needs, you know, being more actively doing things to provide for those needs. You know, listening to yourself is another way, you know, because the example that you received from your actual physical parents was inadequate. You know, it didn't provide you with the complete nourishment or you know, the protection or the safety that you needed to be in that particular point in your life. And so right now you have an opportunity to do so, you know, from a state of awareness of, you know, how to provide for, you know, how to protect, you know, how to provide those things to nourish yourself, you know, whether it be through foods, you know, just, you know, habits that would help you to feel better, you know, whatever that may be, you know, in your estimation. And I don't know if I'm really making sense. What I'm saying,
I
because
I think so.
there's
Yeah.
there's so many things that come to mind when you think about this aspect of reparenting, because you look at the examples of how you were raised and the things you were taught and how you grew up, and now you're finding ways to give, you know, healthier information, you know, for yourself so that you can actually interact with the world in healthier ways than versus the ways in which you were taught.
Yeah.
You know, the influences, the examples that were provided. You know, now you can consciously tell yourself that, hey, I don't have to practice this thing or do this thing. There's something else that I actually can do that's way more healthy for me, you know, to be doing, and that's way more nourishing, you know, for myself. And so that's what I mean in terms of the reparenting. You just taking all that stuff and putting other things in place that are, you know, in accordance to what your needs are
Yeah.
at any given time. It's a smorgasbord of information there.
That was delicious as far as smorgasbords go. Um, it reminds me of like basically one of the things then that I guess I'm reparenting myself on is like my workaholic tendencies, that like I was very much raised with like laziness is like the biggest sin there is, and that like you're only as valuable as you were productive today. Productivity is a
Yeah.
big deal. And like accomplishing things and yeah, good grades and having a job and like all of these things were just kind of like base level expectations, to the point where now I'm like reparenting myself in a way of like allowing myself to rest when that's what I
Yeah.
want to do, even if that's like 7 days in a row of not being productive. Like, if that's where I'm at, that's where I'm at, and like honoring that. And the other example was Easter was just here very recently. And like basically when we were little, I mean, there was no choice. Like, it's Easter family, like you're going, and
In
it's a
church.
big thing. And there was no church, but there was like a family gathering where it's like all of us cousins and grandparents and everybody is there, and it's loud and it's busy, and I have a huge family. And basically I
Yeah.
decided a couple weeks ago for Easter, I'm not going. I don't want to go there. Like, it just really doesn't sound nourishing or fun, or like it's calling me there. Like, nothing about it is calling me there other than a sense of obligation. And
Yeah.
what I'm
Nothing fulfilling
practicing,
about it.
like in my whole life, is I don't do stuff because I'm obligated to. I do it
There
because
we
that's
go.
what I want. And so
There we
I
go.
didn't go to Easter. And of course, like the next time I see my brothers, one of my brothers is like, "So why weren't you at Easter?" And I was like, "I stayed home instead." He's like, "Why?" "Because I wanted to." Like, I don't know what you want from me. Like, this is all I have, is that I didn't want to go.
This ain't
So
about you.
yeah, like it's
Yeah, this
really,
ain't about you.
it wasn't personal. Yeah, exactly. It's not personal. I just don't want to go there today. So should I or shouldn't
Mhm.
I? Because my parents and the way I was raised say, of course you would go. Like, why would you even
Yeah.
ask that question? And yet everything I'm practicing on my spiritual path says, of course you shouldn't go. If you don't feel
Yeah.
it, if your heart's not there, then aren't you doing more harm than good by showing up in that
Yeah.
space without your heart? Like, what are you, why would you even consider going if you don't feel like go? Like, it just is so
And
two
that's also
very different ways of looking at it.
and that's also placing yourself in a position where you're unsafe. Think about it.
Mm.
You're taking yourself out of the space of being safe, to force yourself into a situation that you're already energetically not even comfortable with.
Yeah.
So that's another example of reparenting. You're providing protection for yourself.
Yeah.
Think about the childlike self, putting your childlike self into an experience or in a circumstance that is unsafe, you know, placing them in a space of danger, versus like, no, don't go to this particular place because it's unsafe, for you, you know, listening to what the little Carly would feel like
Yeah.
if the parent sent Carly into a place of all this chaos, all this space of things not being loving, and then not being there with them, it's like
Yeah.
you just
You're
them
on
out
your own.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which now, because you have this better awareness and understanding, it's like, well, no, you stay home with me, little Carly. You know, we're gonna take care of you and help you to feel safe and help you to feel comfort, help you to even feel seen. Because
Yeah.
most of the time when you're in these family structures like this, it's like you're not being seen as you are. They're basically placing all this stuff on you, these burdens of, well, if you don't keep mom or dad happy, then it's not going to be a good time. You
Yeah.
know, all this extra stuff that gets placed upon you that you have no real choice
Yeah.
per se in the manner because you're there, and yeah, if you just felt compelled to be in this space, there's things you can do to kind of help, but why go there? You know,
But that's
it's no,
that's
there's
was
no,
my conclusion. Yeah.
yeah, there's no value in it, other than, yeah, you get to see them, but all the other stuff that comes as a result of you being there is like, man, I don't want to do this shit. It's like I could be at home, you know, eating some popcorn or,
Any
eating
number of
two,
fun things that, like,
yeah,
being at home feels good. And like that day, yeah, I mean, thinking about like little girl Carly, like how did she feel? She was already tired and she knew it would be loud.
Yeah.
And she knew that, like, I mean, basically, when we go there, to your point, like, yeah, we don't get seen. It's like you're just a body as part of the family unit, and the chaos and the
Yeah.
craziness of all of this, like, you just get lost in the middle of all of it. So I'm like, does it even really matter if I'm there? Like, I I don't feel like that's the best use of my time. And
And
at least
energy.
that day. Right, exactly. Like I wasn't I wasn't in it. I didn't, my heart was not there. My energy level wasn't just like, okay, I'm going to shower and get in my car and head over there. Like, I mean, if it had been meant to unfold, then it would have, and it did not. I had nothing but, don't make me go. I don't want to go. And then I'm like, wait, no, I'm in charge, and I'm sure as shit ain't going to make myself go. So I guess we're not going. Cool. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be miserable half the day.
No, I'm not
Why?
going there. So I let myself stay home. And that reparenting feels really good, to let myself stay home when I want to, because that was another one that, like, my mom was like, when you said, I'm sick, she said, do you have a fever? Have you thrown up? And if the answer was no to both of those questions, then you went to school. And so
Yeah.
multiple times she had to come and pick me up from school, because within the first hour I'm throwing up in the bathroom or whatever. Like I'm truly sick, but she didn't believe me.
Yeah.
So it's like she
Right.
pushed me to do things that I'm telling you, I don't want to do that. I can't do that right now. I don't feel up to it. And there were no honoring of those kinds of limits as far as I would speak them out loud. It was always just, no, you go to school. Like, period.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so stupid. And can I be excused to go puke in the school bathroom, please? Like, that's just so annoying. And
Adds
so, yeah,
another
like,
level of trauma because people are making fun of you in class and all that stuff.
right.
You know?
Hopefully you make it to the bathroom and you're not throwing up like in the hallway on the way there or some shit. Like, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it was one of those things where, like, yeah, I mean, when I would say I don't want to do that, there was usually like, you're being lazy or something like that. So, I mean, I haven't even like really thought about this until we get into this whole concept of reparenting. Like, these memories are just like one at a time, like coming to the surface. I'm like, great, great. Come on up and let me see, like, how was little girl Carly treated? Because I think a lot of it, I've like made peace with it to the point where it doesn't really come up, but it's still in there. I think there's
Yeah.
for little girl Carly to be reparented now and to be allowed to call the shots. When you don't feel like going, then let's don't go. Like,
Yeah.
there's no
You feel
reason to go.
unsafe.
Yeah.
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 And honoring that going back to what your body is experiencing, what your body's telling you is the other thing, is that you're being more in tune with that. Well, my body's like not wanting to be in that space,
Right.
and I have to remind myself of that too sometimes, just because there's a lot of stuff going on. Then I'm like, you know what? Well, my body is telling me just to lay down, lay around. If I don't feel like eating, don't worry about it. Just wait another time, just get some rest. And sometimes that's the nourishing thing. It just feels good to get in bed sometimes at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And otherwise I'd be trying to stay up till 10, 11 o'clock,
Yeah.
but with my body's telling me this, then I need to honor it. Don't go through any extra effort, like of making sure just, hey, I need to rest right now.
Yeah.
And you find that when you start doing those types of things, on the other side of it, it's like, guess what? I avoided listening to my brothers or sisters arguing with each other. It's like, there's all this stuff that you start to realize, oh my God, what was I doing to myself?
Right.
And just staying home and being with myself, and how quiet and peaceful it is. You start to even find your relationship to your inner strength growing too. Your inner power starts to become more evident. It's like, I have the power of choice right now. I don't have to go.
Right.
And, just because your brother asked you something about it, your power was showing up. And you know what? I did what was best for me in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters. Whether you agree with it or not doesn't really matter.
Right.
I was doing what was best for me. You know, I was listening to little Carly talk, and she said she didn't want to hear you
No, she was not
hear your
not
shit.
into it. No. Well, and that's like in that same conversation, the same brother is bitching about how loud it was and how the kids are fucking like they're crying and they're screaming and this one fell down and this one banged his finger and this one he's like and I'm like, so why did you go to Easter? Like I should have
Right?
asked him, like forget why I wasn't there. Why did you go? Because we all know what it
Yeah.
is. Like you weren't, that's not
It's
new information. That's exactly what happens every
Yeah,
time.
and
It's fucking loud.
he was secretly envious of you.
Oh, I
You
think
know.
so. Totally. Totally. That was really what was underneath. He's like, why weren't you there? Why weren't you suffering along with
Yeah.
the rest of us? We suffered like we were supposed to. Where were you? I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, you can come to
I'm
my
not gonna
house
do
next
that to
time.
myself.
Yeah, we'll be in the
Right.
quiet and we'll sit on the porch and we'll have a lovely conversation, but I am not going to be surrounded by 15 screaming children. No. All my
Yeah.
cousins,
And you
like they're having
find
a race to see who can have the most kids. It's insane to me. I don't know. And it's
who can be the
loud.
most miserable.
Oh my God, it's so loud. Well, they're all farmers. So like the kids are
Yeah.
working. Like it's like the 1900 like back here in terms of like those kids are
Yeah.
farm kids. Like they're helping. So, and most of them like it, like that's the
But
soul
now,
that they chose. They knew what they were getting into. But yeah, it's
mhm.
just like it's a loud environment and mm, no part of me
And you
wanted
started
to
pretending,
go.
right, and you start paying attention to how and you've talked about it before. You're starting to pay attention to how you're using your energy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're really more conscious of how you're using it and what's replenishing it and what's exhausting it. You
Yeah.
know, you start to become more balanced with it, you know, and it all still carries this idea of you paying attention to yourself and being more with yourself and, being more conscious about things,
Yeah.
how it starts to lift your vibration and you're really just starting to be a lot more present with things. Because even if you're there, you're not really present.
Never.
You're not really there with the experiences because there's so much going on.
I'm
And
like
then
legit
even
counting
when
down the minutes. Like, okay, so I'm going to stay for at least 90 minutes. And I'm like, okay, so I have 87 more minutes to go. Like, this is how it is, like while I'm there. So I'm like, why
yeah,
would I subject myself to that? Like, what's the value that I'm getting? I don't know. I don't.
and then
Yeah.
if you're really attached to the idea of why you're there for, you mean the idea of it's supposed to be for Easter, but then there's that whole other thing that goes on with that as well, and you're like, I'd much rather spend my time, doing something that I really resonate with, that really helps develop this relationship spiritually to myself. There's a lot that's to be said about forcing yourself to have these, particular holidays for certain reasons. And, you could go down a rabbit hole with that as well, but it's just that energetic relationship to things that it just starts to change, and when you start to become more aware of yourself and why you're doing things and why you putting yourself in these spaces of harm for the sake of other people's perspectives and ideas and things of that nature. And it's just not necessary,
Yeah.
but you've been imposed with these ideas that if you don't do these things, then it says something about you as a person when it's like, no, you know, it doesn't say anything about me. Yeah, you might resonate with that thing and it might somehow form your identity around it, but not mine.
Yeah.
You know, that's not mine. That's yours to deal with. You know, it's not my burden to carry, you know, and
Right.
my energetic relationship with myself is not going to be affected by that thing,
Yeah.
you know. And just because you try to impose it on me as if though I'm supposed to, abide by that standard, no, that's when my inner power steps in and says, well, I know what makes me feel good, and I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
whether you agree with it or not doesn't really even matter. And you've said it before on some of your videos as well, too, about that whole idea.